Hey everyone! For today's video, I wanted to utilize some ingredients that typically get thrown away or are typically byproducts of the food or beverage industry. There's always a lot of waste when you work at restaurants, and it's something that I really try to eliminate from my cocktails. Two of these ingredients that I'll be utilizing to make my cocktail are these little date seeds that you find inside of dates. You can roast these and actually make like a coffee out of them, although it is caffeine free. So I'm gonna try to do that, and I'm gonna turn that into a syrup. So I'm gonna be using also these coffee cherries is what they're called, or they're also known as Cascara. It's actually the fruit that surrounds the coffee bean. So my original idea was to infuse these into this liquor that I came across in Champagne that the champagne makers make because they can only use so much of the juice that they harvest. So with the rest of it, they make their own kind of liqueur that's called Ratavia. Unfortunately, it's not really readily available to buy, at least here in the US. So I have kind of a fancier version of that, which is Pineau de Charentes. So this is actually made with the grapes that's used to make cognac, and it's also fortified with cognac. So this is like a very fancy version of what Ratavia is. So this is going to be infused with the Cascara, and then I'm going to make a riff on a Manhattan using some rye whiskey and a couple dashes of bitters. I haven't made this before, so I'm curious to see how it'll turn out. Hopefully it's delicious. In theory, it sounds delicious, so let's dive in. If you've ever made granola bars or date syrup, chances are you're left with a bunch of date seeds. I looked online to see if anyone used them for anything, and I came across a bunch of recipes for date seed coffee. It's been around for a long time, and it has its origins in the Middle East. It's pretty simple to process the seeds. All you need to do is remove the seed from the date, wash them, and let them dry before roasting them. I let mine dry out for 24 hours before roasting the seeds in the oven for about 30 minutes at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. After they've reached a nice dark brown color, you just grind them up in a coffee grinder or a spice grinder to a coffee grind consistency. You can grind as coarse or as fine as you like, depending on your brewing method. I'm brewing my date seed coffee with the pour-over method. I use 3 teaspoons of ground date seeds and 100 milliliters of boiling water. It resembles more of a tea than a coffee, but it does have a great caramel and coffee-like flavor, though much lighter. To make the date seed syrup, I'm going to add a 1/3 cup of turbinado sugar to my date seed coffee and stir until the sugar has dissolved. Then I'll let the syrup cool and place it in the refrigerator to chill. Cascara is also typically drank as a hot beverage in many coffee-producing countries, though unlike date seed coffee, Cascara tea is caffeinated. It has a bright cherry flavor with lots of tobacco notes. It's really delicious on its own, but to incorporate it into this drink, I'm going to infuse the Cascara into some Pineau de Charentes. Since Pineau de Charentes is fairly low ABV, about 17%, I'm going to let this infuse for a bit longer than usual. I'll add 1 tablespoon of Cascara to 4 ounces of Pineau de Charentes and let it infuse for 12 hours. Once it's ready, I'll strain off the Cascara and bottle it up. I'm really happy with how both of these projects turned out. The date seed syrup has a nice roasted complexity to it. I think it's going to pair really nicely with the Cascara-infused Pineau de Charentes. I'm really excited to see how everything will work in the final cocktail. To build my zero-waste Manhattan, first I'll add 1/4 ounce of the date seed syrup to my mixing glass, followed by 1/2 ounce of the Cascara infusion. I'll add 2 ounces of rye, and finally 3 dashes of whiskey barrel-aged bitters. I'll add my ice and stir for 30 seconds. Then strain into a coupe. And of course garnish it with my homemade brandied cherry, which I'll link the recipe in the description below. I love how this turned out. Still very Manhattan-like, but with really big, bright cherry notes, and some added complexity from the date seeds and barrel-aged bitters. Also, the tobacco notes from the Cascara give this cocktail a really nice long finish and lends itself well to being a delicious sipper. So if you want a bolder, more full-bodied Manhattan, this drink is for you. So here it is, my zero waste Manhattan riff. I don't have a clever name for it, so if you can think of one, please leave it in the comments below. I always think it's pretty fun to try to use ingredients that you would typically throw away. This is a great example of it. Another one would be my mango shrub that I'll also link below that I made just using the scraps from a mango. I also have a strawberry shrub that I similarly use the strawberry tops for. Even the orgeat that I make, you can always reuse the almond pulp in baking. So I always really like to find uses for everything that I make. I try not to throw that much stuff away. And if you guys have any great ideas for cocktails using ingredients like this, please link them below. I'd love to give them a try, and I know that others would too. And if you do happen to make a cocktail either on here or Instagram, please use the hashtag DrinkToTheEarth2022. I hope to see a bunch of creative cocktails on there soon. Take care. Bye.